Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So, can Varnashrama also be properly practiced in the modern cities of today?
Varnashram isn't limited to any particular place. It's a question of mentality. So, cities have so many different environments within the city. You can find very peaceful environments within a city. So many different variables are there. So, a person who is inclined to work according to their particular nature, they can work anywhere. So yeah, Varnashram can be continued in a city.
And so far within ISKCON, we have introduced only Brahmana Varna. How ISKCON can introduce other Varnas like Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, if at all they should be introduced?
Well, I think really that the problem is that these different Varnas, they need to be brought out of people. Like here in the Gurukula, for instance, we get students coming from all different families, from different parts of the world. And they have many different natures. The Gurukul system is designed to cater for the Dvijas, the three Dvijas, the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas.
Yes.
So, as a child goes through the Gurukul system, their Varna emerges. And in that way, the Gurukul engages them according to their propensity. So, for instance, one boy, he may gravitate towards working with the cows. Another boy, he may gravitate towards managing different parts of the school. Other boys are just interested in learning yagya, mantras, like that. So in different ways the school can cater for the different Varnas, and then as they grow up, their nature is brought out and they're able to fully operate within that nature. So if you take an adult, oftentimes adults because they haven't been trained according to their Varna, therefore they don't know what it is. And because they've been put in artificial environments, they don't know how to act properly. And so it's much more difficult for adults to act truly according to their Varna. The way ISKCON is set up nowadays also makes it very difficult because we're very limited in the services we can offer. One of the reasons why Varnashram is so important, why ISKCON should introduce Varnashram, is to allow many more people with many different skill sets to actually operate in a Krishna conscious environment. That's the purpose of Varnashram. Srila Prabhupada, when he first started ISKCON, it was an ashram-based movement. When you joined ISKCON, you actually moved into the temple and you studied under Srila Prabhupada or under his disciples, and you learned to surrender to Guru, to surrender to the orders of Guru, and you were given different services. But now what's happened is, over the years, ISKCON has become more of a congregational-based movement, and there's no need or there's no facility for devotees to come and actually live in an ashram environment and learn the different activities of Krishna consciousness. The activities of Krishna consciousness are the activities of the world in terms of at least the basic needs that we have as human beings. So because we've moved away from that inclusive kind of situation and we've become, as you say, more of a Brahmanically based movement, it wasn't like that originally. Prabhupada didn't make this into a Brahmanically based movement. He said very clearly that some people are Brahmins, some people are Vaishyas. He even said that it wasn't necessary to take Brahmin initiation. If a person becomes a devotee, if they don't have Brahminical nature, then why would we give them Brahminical initiation? They can act as Vaishya or as a Kshatriya, like that. So it's not necessary that everyone has to take Brahmin initiation. This was Prabhupada's statement. So we've kind of evolved into a Brahmanically based movement, and of course the culture is Brahmanically based, but that means that basically everyone within the culture, the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas and the Shudras, act according to Brahminical culture, not that they are all Brahmins. There's a difference.
Yes, Prabhu. So I have 3 more questions, Prabhu, related to the role of women. So it's like, should women in general be encouraged to take up different professions and become part of the market force? That's one question.
Well, See, it's a question really of understanding the society as a whole. Varnashram means a holistic approach. It doesn't take any one particular individual and specialize. It's how do all the individuals work together in society. And so because we want a stable society comes from children that have grown up with appropriate training. And the mother is the person, the women are the people who do that training. They have that sensitivity, that patience to train children very nicely in the appropriate understanding of how the world works. So if women dedicate themselves more to raising up of children, that guarantees a really positive future for the world, because the world needs stable, well-grounded children who have grown up in a loving, caring environment. If a woman is going off and getting a job in some high-powered industry or whatever it is, and she has kids, the chances are she'll neglect those kids. And then everyone suffers. Everyone that comes in contact with that child afterwards will suffer because the child hasn't had a nice, well-balanced upbringing. Yeah? If the child feels neglected, like in my own example, my mother was a working woman when I was a child, and she would go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, come home at 6 o'clock at night. She had hardly any time for me, and I felt neglected. I felt like she didn't really care about me. And so therefore I developed some resentments. So like that, of course my family were, generally speaking, a very good family, but there were these shortcomings were there. So when a child doesn't have the love and affection of a mother who's there for the child all the time, especially in the developing years, then the whole of society becomes affected. If you look at society today, majority of men and women are both working. They don't spend significant amount of time at home, and therefore society is going down. Young people don't know how to behave properly. They're setting really bad example. So like that, I believe that actually this whole idea of having women go into industry or into business is a mistaken idea, unless of course they're a single woman that's not going to get married. That may be the case. But if a woman is going to get married and stay with her family, then she really needs to take care of the family.
Yes, bro. So then I have two more questions on the same subject. How should ISKCON promote education for women within the movement? And why did Srila Prabhupada say that women need not attend the Varnasrama college? Two separate questions.
Okay, so what was the first one again?
First one, how should ISKCON promote education for women within the movement?
Okay, so education for women within the movement. Well, of course, when Prabhupada set up ISKCON in the West, he created the Brahmacharini ashram, because in the West women aren't protected, and there's no environment in which women can peacefully obtain knowledge about Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada realized it was necessary to protect the women, to take them out of the modern world and give them an ashram within the temple, and then they could be part of that whole spiritual life. So that was a very important thing. So for women that haven't grown up in Vedic culture, then it's important that they should be able to imbibe that Vedic culture. They should know what it's all about, just as everyone should learn what Vedic culture is about. So like that, it's important for women to have that access to knowledge about Krishna consciousness, Vedic culture, how society works, how they can advance in Krishna consciousness.
And then regarding Varnasrama college, why Prabhupada said that the women need not to attend Varnasrama college?
Well, it's a similar situation like here in India. For a start, I think there is only maybe 1 or 2 Varnashram colleges in existence anywhere. Although Prabhupada wanted a Varnashram college in every center, it hasn't actually occurred so far. We are starting a Varnashram college here in Mayapur, and of course the Varnashram Ministry has its Varnashram colleges going on in different parts of India.
Yes.
And the reason why women weren't included, as far as I understand, is that in Vedic culture, generally speaking, the women learn the culture at home, in the family. Because in Indian families, at least traditionally, women would learn all about the different aspects of Vedic culture. Another reason is because as soon as you get men and women associating outside of the home, then there's always the chance that relationships will develop which are not appropriate. Men and women are only supposed to associate if they're going to become married or if they are married, and generally speaking, otherwise men and women shouldn't be mixing together freely.
Yes.
And sometimes we see in different situations in ISKCON where some educational system may be going on, sometimes it turns out that the men and women are freely associating, and then it can lead to problems.
Yes. One question. How important are villages, and why is ISKCON much less involved in village development?
Okay, well, villages, we should be developing villages. Prabhupada, when he first started ISKCON, once we had enough devotees in the movement, Prabhupada started two things: the farm communities and gurukulas. And the farm communities, we call them farm communities, but actually they were meant to be villages. Prabhupada said, make Vrindavan villages. So the idea is that by living naturally, by producing everything that we need, in that way, the Varnashram system comes out, and we become Krishna conscious in a very sattvic atmosphere. So it's very conducive for Krishna consciousness. So the farm communities were meant to become villages. Gitanagari village in America, Prabhupada started Gitanagari, New Vrindavan. This all evokes the idea of a village, community. So yes, ISKCON is supposed to promote those. The problem now is that we've evolved into a situation where we can obtain the funds that we need to operate ISKCON by introducing new people to ISKCON, especially wealthy Indian families. They'll donate, and then the basic programs of ISKCON go on. And we don't need to create the underpinnings of society which normally would be there. If you look at the Catholic Church, for instance, the Catholic Church owns property all over the world. And in the old days, they used to have these big ashrams where they were completely self-sufficient. They would produce everything they needed. Just having land itself provides income. So ISKCON hasn't gone down that road. We haven't gone down the road of actually developing property and producing wealth from the land. If we had done that, we would have no money problem. Prabhupada said that if you live simply and produce all your own needs, you have no problem. Your economic problem is solved. Prabhupada even said that at a certain point people will become so harassed by taxes and by lack of water that they'll come running to us for the solutions, because we are supposed to have created these solutions in terms of solving the economic problem, growing our own food, producing all our own needs. So that was what Prabhupada wanted for ISKCON. But we haven't yet developed that area. So that's something that needs to be developed. Something that's missing right now.
Yes, sir. And in this context again, how important are cows in the lives of ISKCON devotees?
Well, ISKCON has had a checkered history with cow protection. And in the beginning we had these very big goshalas. Prabhupada describes how besties of devotees have small ashram facilities, keep a cow, grow their own food, be self-sufficient. If a cow is treated as part of a family, then the cow, she'll give milk for much longer. When I lived in Spain for a while on New Vrajamandala farm, and I was milking one brown Swiss cow, and that cow actually, she had been barren. She'd not had a calf for about 6 or 7 years. But the cowherd man at that time, he decided he was just going to try milking her anyway. So he did that. And after about 3 years of him just mechanically milking her, she started to give milk. And then she was giving about 2.5 litres in the morning, 2 litres in the evening, every day, without having had no calf, which is plenty for a family. So she is like a proof of how, if you treat a cow with love as part of a family, she will give milk way beyond the period that she's generally commercially expected to do so. So ideally, it's best if a grihastha family take a little piece of land, grow their own food, produce the things they need in cooperation with other grihastha families in a village setting. Keep cows, not necessarily every family has a cow, but between several families a few cows can be there. And in that way it becomes a very sustainable system. The cow becomes part of the family. And it's actually the way we're supposed to live life. It's a very simple thing. We're human beings, we need to eat, we need to produce a place to live, clothes on our back, all of which can come from the area around us. So we need to go back to that kind of system, and that's when the Varnashram system can really show itself, when we can return to a natural system, because Varnashram is all about natural systems.
Can you comment on the statement that Vedic culture is primarily meant to be an agrarian culture?
Yeah, agrarian culture is the simple life that we as human beings are meant to live. We're meant to live in a very simple environment. As human beings, we have these bodies with their muscles and needs, and so when you live simply on the land, you stay very healthy, you stay fit, your labor is very productive, so it makes sense that agrarian culture, that's how we as humans are supposed to live. The industrial culture is simply a system that enriches a few at the expense of many. So the industrial culture is completely against, it goes against Krishna conscious culture. So agrarian culture is geared towards simple living and high thinking. It gives you time to spend, to study the Shastras. And you can produce all of your own needs. Prabhupada describes how you only need to work 3 or 4 months a year to produce all of your needs. The rest of the time you can spend in Krishna consciousness, save time for Krishna consciousness. That is the purpose of the agrarian culture, to save time for Krishna consciousness.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Many women within our ISKCON society have serious reservations about implementing Varnashrama. How to address their fears and apprehensions?
I think there's a big misunderstanding of what Varnashrama is. Varnashrama ultimately is a very caring, loving environment for everyone, because people are facilitated to live according to their nature. Who doesn't want to live according to their nature? Who doesn't want to be in an environment where you can work and act according to your nature? It's something that everyone aspires for. People work in their offices and they're just dreaming about that time when they can go on holiday out in the countryside and just relax. Or even nowadays, there's something called experiential tourism. It's the biggest growth factor in tourism is experiential tourism, which means that people go to places like India and learn how to live a tribal life or a traditional life in a village. People no longer even want to relax, they want to have an experience. So Varnashram is a wonderful experience. If people can act according to their nature, people who act according to their nature are happy and productive. They love what they do, and because they love what they do, they produce very nicely and they produce very high quality things. For instance, my wife, since we've been married now for like 23 or 24 years, and my wife gradually evolved into being an artist. She designs many dresses for the deities, she designs backdrops and settings for festivals here in Mayapur. She's always busy. She's just recently she designed a chariot for the lordships to go on parikrama around the temple, and she loves it. She's very fulfilled. So the Varnashram system is for that purpose, is to give us a fulfilling, happy life. Who doesn't want that? So if you're thinking that Varnashram will be a bad thing, that means you haven't understood what is Varnashram, what's the purpose of it, what it can produce. Krishna created the Varnashram system. Does Krishna want us to be miserable? I don't think Krishna wants us to be miserable, he wants us to be happy. And so therefore, the Varnashram system is meant for that purpose. It's meant for us to be happy, and it's also to facilitate us in Krishna consciousness. Varnashram is a tool that we can use to raised to the mode of goodness, to pure goodness, and ultimately to become fully Krishna conscious. So it's actually a gift for everyone.
Yes.
So any fears that are there must be based on misunderstanding.
So then what are the stumbling blocks for Varnashrama to happen, and especially why ISKCON is it's been slow in developing Varnashrama communities?
Again, I think it's because of a lack of understanding as to what Varnashram is. And also, in one sense, Varnashram means taking more responsibility. Srila Prabhupada took so much responsibility for his disciples.
Yeah.
He cared about his disciples. One of the reasons why he was able to encourage people to surrender to Krishna consciousness was because his disciples realized that he cared about them, that he loved them, that he was only there for them. And Prabhupada, if we look at Prabhupada's background, he was working as a pharmacist in different parts of India. He wasn't from an agricultural or rural family, but in the 70s he was pushing that we should become self-sufficient, that ISKCON should become self-sufficient, simple living and high thinking, because he knew it would answer all our needs, it would answer all the questions we had, and it would provide an ongoing sustainable society. He understood that. And towards the end, in the last journey that Srila Prabhupada made was to go to America, to Gitanagari, and he said, I will sit down and I will teach you how to live from the land. So Prabhupada wasn't a farmer, but he understood how important the agrarian lifestyle is. That this is the way Krishna and Balaram live. Krishna is there, Balaram has the plow, Krishna's herding the cows. He's living in the family of Nanda Maharaj, who's a Vaishya. Right? He's demonstrating a whole simple agrarian Krishna conscious lifestyle. Ultimately, that's where we're going to go. If we're going to become Krishna conscious, ultimately that's where we go, right? To the spiritual world, to be with Krishna, with his cows, and live that simple life. Yeah. So we've got to start somewhere. We have to acclimatize ourselves to that simple life. Yes. And so that's why it's so important that we live this agrarian lifestyle, that we develop this agrarian lifestyle. So it's something that should be taken seriously. And I think that with the resources we have in ISKCON now, that we can actually start to do it. We have much more maturity. There are so many devotees who have studied this subject and who are beginning to start projects. I think devotees are starting to take it more seriously. So I think that this is getting to the point now where we can turn around and actually this can become a major important part of the development of our society.
Yeah. So this is again another question. So is there anywhere Prabhupada said that every temple should have their own farm so that they supply?
There are many places. When Prabhupada was with us in the 60s and 70s, it was like a kind of a blueprint that everyone followed. That you had your city temple, and then you go out and find a farm or an ashram about an hour outside of the city. It has to be close enough that it's not too far to go, but it has to be far enough that it's not influenced by the city.
Yeah.
So we had New Vrajamandala near Madrid, we had New Mayapur near Paris. Like that, different parts of the world, Prabhupada personally established or personally encouraged the devotees when they had the city temple to have a farm project nearby. The farm project can provide all the food for the city temple, and the devotees from the city temple can go to the farm, live that simple life, and increase their Krishna consciousness. So there's many examples where Prabhupada said we should do that.
So yes, so that's all with respect to the questions that we thought of asking. So anything specifically you want to address to the audience or the viewers?
I think it's really important that devotees realize how valuable it is to give children a Gurukul education. Here in this school, we have students from all over the world, coming, some of them as young as 5 or 6 years old. And they really get to have a good feeling about Krishna consciousness. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, he described how children can very easily accept Krishna and Krishna's pastimes and his activities. They can accept him as their friend. They can identify with Krishna as their friend. And if they engage in service to Krishna, this will free them from all anarthas, even anarthas which are in seed form, which haven't yet fructified. By engaging them constantly in Krishna consciousness, they become very happy. So you have to look around this school and you see the children. You can see how they're happy. Even when they're sweeping or they're washing their clothes or they're doing menial service, they're happy. They're enthusiastic. And even in the holidays, one of the boys came up to me the other day and he said, "Oh, during the holiday, can I come and help you?"
Mm-hmm.
Now, most children in the West, as soon as the holiday comes, it's bye-bye school, I don't want to see school anymore.
Correct.
But here, the kids actually come back during the holidays and they help out because they love this whole environment and the whole system. So the Gurukul system is a natural educational system for children. They love it. And because it's not trying to cram academics down their throats, because it's more of a understanding how to live a healthy, happy life, understanding how to develop all the different skills you need according to your nature to live a healthy, happy life. The Gurukul is the best place for children to grow up in. So we need to expand these Gurukuls all over the world. It's very important. In the past, there's been abuse because the schools were neglected because the teachers weren't qualified. Back in the 60s and 70s, there was this need to make money. And so anyone who was qualified at all was sent out on the street. And those that couldn't go on the street, couldn't be productive, they were sent to run the Gurukuls. And so we had so many problems because of that.
Okay.
We have to give our best people for the Gurukuls. And we have to encourage others to support the Gurukul system, because this is how Krishna and Balaram grew up. This is the archetype of educational system. This is how it's meant to be. So, such an important thing for devotees, as we understand, we're not supposed to become a teacher, a parent, a guru, unless we can deliver our dependents from birth and death. This is Bhagavad Gita. So, it's very, very important. So, the Gurukul system is a way in which we can do that. So, very important system. Encourage people to come and check out the Mayapur Gurukul, correspond with the teachers in charge, look at the website, look at the videos, and consider putting your child in Gurukul or starting a Gurukul somewhere else based on Srila Prabhupada's teachings.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.